Hey, Georgia Tech fans, we are back here with another episode of Swarm Talk. My name is Bryce Koon. Let's get talking as Virginia comes to town. It's going to be a fun Thursday night on the Flats. All that and more on today's episode of Swarm Talk, presented by Section 103 and brought to you by the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.
What's up, everybody? Bryce Koon here, and I'm pumped to talk to you today about the Virginia game. But we're not just going to take a look at just what's going on with Virginia. No, we're going to talk a little bit more about where Georgia Tech is, because there's a lot of theories, a lot of kind of talks about what has happened, since Bryce Koon has been named interim coach. I want to talk about that with you and more. But hey, listen, before we do, make sure to hit subscribe to the channel. Go to thecrowdedbooth.com, sign up for the free newsletter. Now, what that does, it just brings the show directly into your email inbox each and every single day. We want to make it a part of your daily routine. My name is Bryce Koon. I cover Georgia Tech for 24/7 Sports, but this is the platform where you are going to find the most Georgia Tech content that you can possibly consume. And I got a special announcement if you can stay to the end of the show. But let's talk about this game. The Jackets are rejuvenated. Bryce Koon has been able to find something that Jeff Collins was not. Been well documented. We've talked about it. So where does that lead us? We had a fantastic Twitter group. We'll say fantastic. And one of the stats that was thrown in there was talking about, both teams averaging around 17 points per game. And I think that it's easy for the casual observer to say, it's two bad offenses they're going to be playing on Thursday night. And that's fair. That's fair. But I think what we have to realize, these are two programs that are, at this juncture in the season, trending in opposite ways. It's two programs that one is lost in identity. The other one probably didn't have one and is starting to find it. And that's Georgia Tech. The ability offensively is what I'm going to need to see in this game. I think Georgia Tech can win this football game, and I think they will. But I think to give confidence in the rest of the year, we need to see a little bit more offensive explosion. Obviously, a lot of that hinges on the health of Jeff Sims. There's been nothing to indicate that he will not play on Thursday night. He was going to go back into the game against Duke if a second overtime would have taken place. But I think when you look at this game and you see what Virginia brings to the table, I mean, look. This team is in the Cavaliers coming down. They're not solid really anywhere right now. I think that when you look at what Virginia can do, there's obviously potential. I mean, Brennan Armstrong had a record-breaking 2021 season, but he's taken a step back in his senior year. He's dead last in passer rating among qualified quarterbacks in the conference. No one's thrown more interceptions. And this is a guy who last year, he finished second in the country in passing yards per game, over 404 yards. This year he is 68th, just around the middle of the pack. But it's not just his fault. Lack of offensive line. They're averaging less than 4 yards per carry on the ground. And they're second to last behind Boston College in allowing sacks. They've got some good athletes, but this is the thing where we've seen Georgia Tech's offense kind of shift. In the first 3 games, FBS games of the season, Georgia Tech was allowing nearly 37 points per game. Not good. They haven't allowed more than 21 in each of the last 2 times out. And they also held a Duke team that felt like it was pretty solid running the football and total offense in general to less than 300 total yards. I think it's safe to say that Georgia Tech's defense for this game could have a big day. Scoring defense-wise, they're just 12th in total in scoring defense in the conference. But that's it's a tale of 2 seasons. And I've said this multiple times. I don't think this team can be judged on what they have done pre-Bryce Koon being the interim head coach. We need to go from the Pitt game on to saying how we evaluate this Georgia Tech team. Ace Ely was just nominated for the midseason ACC Defensive Player of the Year. Leads the team in 67 total tackles and first in the ACC in forced fumbles. Charlie Thomas, obviously leading the team in interceptions, a very good player as well. The one thing that makes me feel comfortable in this game is Georgia Tech's ability to get after the quarterback. We've already talked about how Virginia doesn't have a very stout offensive line. Keon White, I think he can have a field day. He's got 4 sacks. My man Sylvain has got 3.5. Ely has 3.5. Sylvain's got 2.5. It's not like that Georgia Tech has done a fantastic job stopping the run. The pass rush has been very good, but I think a secondary that is starting to come into its own a little bit, led by guys like LaMiles Brooks, KJ Wallace. Those are 2 names right now that are really standing out to me and how they play. This defense as a whole is playing inspired football, and that speaks a lot to where they are. They're going to be able to hold Virginia down defensively, so I'm not worried about that. What I think we do have to take a step back and understand is if this team is going to make a bowl game this year, we've had conversations about it. Can they beat the Virginia schools? They got to find one more win. If they want to be competitive outside the Virginia games, they got to find something offensively that can make them explosive. And like good friend of the show, Patience Veach, has pointed out, go give her a follow on Twitter and make sure to subscribe to her content as well. They've got to find a way to punch it in the end zone. Can't settle for field goals against better teams. You'll be able to get it away with it in this game, but I think that when we were in Bobby Dodd on Thursday, we're in Bobby Dodd on Thursday, we've really got to see, this is just for me, Thursday night we have to see some evolution in the Georgia Tech offense. We've got to see some explosion, and we've got to see the ability to put the ball in the end zone. Gavin Stewart has been a fantastic story. That's great. I want to see some of these pieces that have come back. Leo Blackburn, DJ Moore has been practicing. I want to see some of these pieces. How can they take steps forward to make this a more dynamic offense? They haven't lit the scoreboard up in the past 2 games, 26 and 23 points respectively. But, Jeff Sims played arguably one of the most complete games of his career last time out against Duke. And why do you say that? I say from the mental and the physical side. Played mistake-free football. Obviously he's questionable going into this game, but I feel like that we're going to see him play. Like I said, over on Twitter and our boards as well, and our Discord, there's nothing to my knowledge that would not allow him to play. This is a guy who had a great game against Virginia last year, accounted for nearly 400 yards by himself and 3 touchdown passes. We need to see the next step of what this offense can do. We need to see the evolution of what they can do. I really want to see how Chip Long can be creative as some of the pieces come back into the fold. That's going to be really, really key for this game. Hassan Hall, Malachi Carter's been obviously kind of banged up. Nate McCollum has emerged as a top target. He's got 15 receptions last year. He's nearly doubled. He's got 29 this season. E.J. Jenkins, how do we utilize him in the red zone? And this is a Virginia defense that was pretty good last year. But it's taken a step back, or early in the year, it's taken a step back. Over the last 2 weeks, Virginia's allowed 72 points. Chico Bennett Jr., which obviously Georgia Tech fans are familiar with, leads the team in sacks with 4. But when it comes for tackles for loss and where I think Georgia Tech can be susceptible, Virginia is one of the worst teams in the SEC in doing that. They forced 11 turnovers in 6 games. But I think that this is a game where Georgia Tech can flex their muscles defensively while turning around and saying, how can we be dynamic offensively? And I'm not saying let's get too cute with it to where you find yourself in a struggle in the fourth quarter. I think that Georgia Tech I think they are better than Virginia. But I think that this game, we need to be kind of serious about the fact that we need to see a step up. If you're really better than them, then we need to show it. I think playing in Atlanta, obviously, is a big factor in this game. The program's been rejuvenated. LaMiles Brooks talked about this in his press media availability this week, and just said, it's cool to see students and professors ask about the football program and take a vested interest. Players have already called for fans to pack out the stadium, both students and more. So kind of just wrapping this up, this quick episode, and then we're going to get to the announcement. I think that Georgia Tech is in a prime position to prove something to themselves, but also to the rest of the conference. Can they go into this game and show a dynamic ability on offense that we haven't seen up until this point? Could essentially If you're supposed to be better than a team, can you flex your muscles and do that against a weaker team? Now, look, Brennan Armstrong is still a fantastic talent. If things come together, they're going to get a couple receivers back that could bode well for them. But if you feel like you're the better team and this team's trending towards a positive return back to relevancy, you need to go in there, defend your home turf, and flex the muscles. Defensively, I think that they're there. They're capable of shutting down this team. We've seen it the past 2 games. Now, against better competition later in the season, we can have that conversation. Offensively, if defense is here, we need to see the offense take a little step up to kind of equal that out. I think it's going to be a fun game, a great atmosphere, and I can't wait for you to be there. As we kind of wrap this up, I do want to mention this. It's going to be a fun day. Thursday is going to be so much fun. And you say, well, why? Well, that is because we're going to have a little meet and greet tailgate action, and it's going to be a ton of fun at the Varsity. You join us, hang out, get some great food. Make sure to DM me on Twitter. Comment below, anywhere you can find. In our Discord, make sure to join, get the information as we hang out before Georgia Tech and Virginia face off in Bobby Dodd on a cold football weather type of Thursday night. My name is Bryce Koon. Thanks so much for watching Georgia Tech and Virginia. I got a prediction for you. I'm going Georgia Tech 31, Virginia 20. I think Georgia Tech wins this one. I want to see some dominance. I want to see some offensive. I want to see some offensive guys flex the muscles a little bit. It's a chance to prove it to themselves and to the rest of the conference that they do control their destiny in the ACC, especially the Coastal. What can you do? What can you do against lesser competition? That's what makes great teams great. Hey, we'll talk once again. We'll do a recap show. We'll have that for you on Friday right after the game. It's going to be a ton of fun talking with you all about that. Make sure to check us out, get some more information about where you can find us Thursday afternoon as we get ready for the football game. It's going to be a ton of fun. Stop by, hang out, take some pictures as we continue to grow the Georgia Tech Swarm Talk community. Make sure to hit subscribe. Make sure to hit like and check us out on all social medias. That's all we have the time for today. Go Jackets. It's going to be a fun one.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The crowded booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Koon.